My name is James Corbin. I work with First Followers. I am a resource navigator as well as a peer mentor and basically motivational speaker. I do a lot of motivational speaking under the acronym of Tygar, which is Tygar, which stands for Transform Your Goals in Reality. It's about you taking ownership of your reality instead of blaming it on somebody else. I've been part of this community off and on since 1997, around there, yeah. So that's a nice little while. Yeah, because I moved here first in 97, then I moved back to Chicago about 2005, and finished up at Chicago State and stayed up there for a while, bought a couple of houses, used to flip houses, do things like that. Then I moved back here around, when I moved back here? Around I was almost around 2012, but the world didn't even, yeah. Okay, when I first came down, it used to be some projects, what they call projects, or housing for individuals over there by Crystal Lake. And they tore them down. They took down Bradley McKinley and other affordable housing. Then they didn't offer too many choices. So I think, okay, on one hand, those communities having those affordable housing, although they made not good areas to live in, it offered a chance for individuals, I would say, to get housing. Now we're dealing with a desperate situation. Now, just blocks right here, you go just one block over, that would be considered a hood area, or an area where there's a lot of violence, prone violence, a lot of shooting going on just right there, just 2 blocks over, and drug selling, economically depressed, very dangerous area. Yeah. So they got these, they down here, but they scattered in certain areas and the north side, but now you're seeing it kind of all over the place now. So that's kind of what we're seeing. I saw certain areas develop. These areas, like that area right there, that area has pretty much been there, but not that bad. But now it's dangerous, it's real dangerous now. But yeah, it has been always there. The premise has been there, like, don't go over there on Silver and Water. That's a dangerous area because you got it's cheap, affordable housing. The landlords really don't. They know most of the people over there dealing with low credit scores, and you can find this out. It was a book wrote by John Hope. Anywhere you find these low credit score areas, you don't find economically depressed areas. Because you're dealing with people who are struggling day to day, and the bills are not. They not able to meet the requirement bills. So, and then no credit. Well, your credit score is like the new Jim Crow. Now they could just say, hey, no, we don't have to let you move here. And now today is even worse, man, since COVID. The guy right here that owned a couple of places, I'm not gonna mention his name, but he right there, he actually told me, because I help individuals find housing, he said pretty much, don't bring them, if I bring them anybody, make sure they got a 700 or 720 credit score. And I thought that was just some of the most asinine backwards stuff, because I'm like, anybody get a 720 credit score is not gonna come in this area, man. Why would they do that, If they work that hard to get it there, you actually think they're gonna come to your area? No. But yeah, COVID has made it more stressful. It's highly stressful. The landlords are scared to take a chance because they can't collect their money. And I got individuals right now that sleep in storage spaces. They're tired of it. That's how they feel about it. They're tired of it. They don't know how to end it. And It's too prevalent. So, but I lived in situations like this before. Like I'm originally from Robert Taylor, that area, Robert Taylor Housing Projects, and 111 in Rose. Those are like some of the worst areas in Chicago you can stay in. And when you get gun violence that's this prevalent, people become numb to it. They like, oh, it's just, and it becomes nonchalant, which is, I think, more dangerous than after a while you just say, okay, we need to stop. They look at it as that's just what goes on in this area. So they're tired, but they don't know one, how to stop it. And two, most don't have the energy to stop it. Because, okay, we got to look at the factors that's driving the gun violence, right? We deal with drug sales, competition. This is drug sale competition. One group competing for another group. It's a lack of resources. I like to use the analogy. You ever watch those geographical things where they show like, it'll be, it was just a paper. Where it be an animal hole, a hole of water, and then the water starts drying up, and you see after a while only the crocodiles in there, right? Only the strongest animals there. So it's exactly what you see here. So it's only limited resources in this area. It's money here. It's always money here, because you'll see other groups come in and put like a bodega here, or they'll come there. It's money in the area. But the problem is the money is escaping too fast. The dollar doesn't bounce. So I think in the African American community, the dollar bounces only like 6.5 hours, 6.5, it's out. So if you don't have your dollar bouncing, or it's not able to recover, that's like having no circulation in the body. And this is what you got. The youth are terrified. We got young men that work with us in a program called Go Mad, which is Go Make a Difference. That's what the acronym stands for, GOMAD. And we had one get up and talk in front of the city council. And he told them pretty much, I sit in my room. If I'm not working with them, I sit in my room in the dark so that, nobody won't shoot at my window. They don't know I'm home. He parked his car sometimes away from the house to make it look like he's not at home, because he don't want to be a target. They scared, and the fear is prevalent. So the fear now is forcing them to say, I need a gun. Because nobody else going to protect me. The police not going to help me. I'm on my own. So what do? I need to get a gun. So you'll see a lot of these young guys, younger and younger, they can find a gun. There's now a demand for a product. And once there's a demand for the product like that, it will find its way to a person. That's part of business. That's just business. Once there's a demand, somebody's gonna come here. Hey, somebody got a gun? No. But everybody is it's only 6 degrees of separation between me and you and me. 6 people somewhere I can connect with you. Now the world is shrinking even more. So once that word get out, somebody's over there looking for pistols, or there's several people over there. That demand is gonna be filled. One way or the other is gonna be filled. So the youth are arming themselves. And the older guys like myself, they feel like, y'all can't protect us. I'm gonna give you a good story, man. We had a young guy early on in our program, before we even started all this. We got him to stop carrying a weapon. About a month later, he was killed. And that happens a lot. Like we could talk them out of that, come on out of that, come on away, and then they gone. So what do? what do I do? What do you tell them? Well, I tell them the truth. And the truth is, it's not going to save you. You know, that's a false reality. That's why I try to teach them. But they don't think that. They think that, oh man, if I had my pistol, he got his pistol, we could shoot our way out. Sometimes that's real. Sometimes that works. But the majority of times it don't. I had a pistol on me when I got shot. I had that 357 Bulldog. I had one on me, and I'm here now. I still got a bullet in my spine. So this could happen. And another thing, they don't feel like they're gonna make it and see 24. That's how the youth think in this group. I was one of them guys. I never planned on seeing past 25. Never. And I think we did an article talking about that. And the odd thing is, a week after my 24th birthday, I was at Northwestern Hospital with a bullet in my back, shot up. So, but I never planned on making it that far. I think they're very aware of what's happening. I think somebody is capitalizing on this. You know, I'm sure they're aware of what's happening. They know exactly what's happening. Police are on the ground. You know, yeah, the police are on the ground. They clearly know what's happening. If a young man, 13, know how to find a gun, you telling me they don't? See, that's the fantasy that's here. That how do we get this out? They know what's happening, but there's a lot of money being made. There's money being made in incarcerating these young men. That's 30. What's that? $30,000 and up. It was a article talked about just 3 blocks in Chicago, how much money they made off locking these guys up. So you see, there's an undercurrent in our society. We deal with the effect. We don't deal with the cause. We stay away from the cause because somebody's getting rich off this crap. The insurance companies is making a hell of a lot of money. The funeral companies are making money. It's money and death. You know, and that's what's keeping this going. If they really want to stop this, they could. All they have to do is just come here, man, give some adequate training in them schools. You know, really train them for what's coming on. This new fourth industrial revolution that we're going under. You know, going to school now, man. I mean, there's service industry jobs everywhere. These kids are not being trained for technical jobs that's going global. We're in a global system. So what's going to happen to this? Once we get through with this whole transformation, with this transformation with this AI thing, these jobs are gone. You're going to really see a lot of bloodshed. You know, you think you're seeing bloodshed now, man, and you put this on camera, this thing is going to get off the chain next level. Because now you're dealing with people who haven't been trained right. And it's called low-hanging fruit. And that's why you're seeing this thing now with them just going in the stores, they're getting bolder. This is no accident. Things are tightening up. And they're going to get bolder and bolder. Because one way or the other, this man is going to eat. You know, but now you want him to stop and all of a sudden say, hey, study this and study that. Where nobody in his family has a job like that. Doing, working on computers and things. So he don't know nothing about that. Now, how is he supposed to make that transition? If there's nobody there to guide you to be a lawyer, who's going to train you to say, hey, go to school, you could be a doctor, make a lot of money. He don't even see that in his future. He don't see past 25. He know where he's going. He know already. So if somebody is thinking that short term, thinking moment to moment, survival, that's just focus on survival, day to day, not focus on, well, maybe I will be a doctor or lawyer. That's a long-term thinking. In this environment, you thinking day to day, you like, I got to get some food today. This bill is due tomorrow. This is moment to moment. I can't worry about the month. I might not be here in a month. So I know, like I said, they could bring in more resources, training. They need that. They need more want people to understand what's going on. They need programs that teach them how to build wealth. A lot of them don't understand about buying a house. Like, why should I buy a house? We had this discussion with the young guys. I don't want a house. I don't want to be like those white people. I said, what do you mean like those white people? Why, just so I can say I got a house? I said, no, man. When you got a house, you building up equity. So in the future, then you can cash this out and move in another position. Whereas if you're renting 20 years, you leave with nothing. You know, nothing. And everything you do, you got to learn how to make the dollar bounce. You got to learn how to make it reinvest, bring back. That concept is not here. So that's one of the lack of education things that we got to do is teach them how to make it bounce, how to circulate. Now, the other folks want to help that instead of feeding off it like a parasite and then taking the money out. Bring in the businesses there. Show them how to be stakeholders in the community. Show them how to create jobs in their community. You will see this turn around. But this thing is based on economics. Number one, economics future, and take it out of survival mode. You'll see a change. When somebody go through that gun violence or something, gun violence happens, it's not just the victim, it's the family, it's everybody who witnessed it. It's trauma, man. The first time I seen somebody shot, I was a young kid in the projects, and the elevator door, and when it opened, the people was all shot up, and I'm looking like, you a young kid, then they moving back, telling me, get them babies back, get them, it's too late, I already seen it. I'm looking at people over there with holes up in them, man, just laying slumped over, and I'm like, man. So, and from there, it was just, and this goes on in every area. This is just not Chicago, Atlanta. I could take you in any country and you'll find the same violence in these poverty areas. We could go in Sri Lanka. We could go in China over there. Any one of these cities, any one of the poverty cities, you're going to have the same thing going on. And it's the same element. It's the exact same element. So, a world without that would have to be a world without poverty. Or we either figure out a way to end poverty, I don't know, I'm not saying we become socialists, but we're going to have to figure out something. Capitalism is based on somebody being at the bottom. Who's ever at the bottom is going to experience this experience. The biggest problem we got now in the hood is a brain drain. The minute somebody make it, nobody say, I'm going to stay here. Who would say something crazy like that? So they go into a white area or affluent area. And then now their resources are going there. So it's always this thing that the resources leave it here. Think of it as just energy being zapped out. It's always zapped out. You can't capture energy here. It's a hole in a bucket. It's about because who would stay here? If I had $1 million, they gone. They win the lottery, they gone. They gone in that area. They going up North Chicago somewhere, man. Bro, they not gonna stay here. They going where the $1.2 million house is at. Who would stay here? You become a target. So this thing is gonna persist. But if you, like you said, what would that look like? It'd look like they wouldn't move. You wouldn't get this influx of movement of the moment we get this, let's go. Let's get out of here. And what you hear every athlete say, or rapper, I had to get my people out of there. Nobody say, I'm going back up in and stay. But that's part of the cycle though. It's this cycle almost like a boiled pot. And when it move up, the water move up faster. Then it turns to steam and it's gone, it evaporate. Then the only thing you got in the pot is the residue. This is the residue. Energy move that way. All energy move that way. So unless you can figure out another way to make energy do something different, I don't know. We could work with it. And I say this: if we put provisions in place, such as teaching them give them direction, because we know already what's going to happen. We dealing with single mothers, probably no father in the area, in the house. They could be lack of direction, right? So we had just programs like with me and the brothers here that could provide direction and talk to them and fill the role to a degree of what individuals are missing, their fathers and the rest of them. You could slow this down. That's all you could do is slow this down. Stop it. I don't see you stop it. But we could bring it to a crawl. Well, we working on that now with the H3 model. So H3 stands for Harm, Hope, and Healing. And it involves us bringing the organization together collectively to address this issue. See, right now everybody's working on a silo or they're working separate, but you're dealing with a system. So, and you know, you always hear this talking about white supremacy, how this works. It's based off 8 areas. You know, 8 areas. You got law, politics, economics, entertainment. It works in all these areas. It's a system that created this. It's going to take a system to go against it. So now, organizations like First Followers and the rest of them with this H3 model, that's what we're focused on, to create a system to address it. We can't do everything. Like we work on reentry, and we work on reentry. We work on finding housing, and we work on other issues. But now we need counseling. We need job training. We need workforce training. We need direction. We need other organizations that do all these pieces to now create this circle, and then bring that together. That's what we're doing now. We're looking at this thing as building a system to counter the system, you know, because lately we've been bringing a stick to a gunfight, or not even a gunfight, a laser fight. Can't beat it. It don't work that way. A lack of it. None. Very little. Very little. The university is viewed as a separate community. University got its own downtown. University got, you know, its whole area. When the kids, the north side, stay off of the university area because they know already that they will be targeted and identified, you know. So that's something to think about. The university is not looked up as an asset, you know. So that's just something to think about. I think that if the university really want to help, like right now we got a project on there that we tying in with, and they are becoming more aware. Like Business Elevator is the economic development, under the economic development pillar of H3. H3 has 5 pillars. So economic development is one of the pillars. Counseling is one, as well as outreach and civic engagement and general education. So we're creating this environment now where the students, like PhD students and everybody, is working on individuals coming through there to work on business plans, business ideas, business concepts. And the reason why we did that is because they have a small business development center here, but it's not designed as an incubator. It's designed, like the average individual that's coming there, white or Caucasian, has resources, middle age, and has experience, and can go get a loan. Now, so the courses they have there are excellent courses, but they're not at that level yet. The individuals we have mostly are black women, still working 9 to 5, probably 2 jobs, service job, little resources, got an idea, but how do you develop it now? You know, and only way you're gonna get out of this, again, like the only way you're gonna get out of it, you can't rent your way out of this. You can't work your way out of this. You're gonna have to learn how to create generational wealth. You're gonna have to learn how to create jobs. You're gonna have to learn how to create, you're gonna have to learn how to do all that. Now, the university wanna help, They could start doing more training programs that talk about this. It's an article came out, 20 Worst Places for African Americans, Wall Street Journal, November 20th. Champaign came out number 20. Did you know that? Yeah, Champaign was number 20. Springfield was number 4. I was surprised. They looked at 383 cities. They look at 8 metrics. One of the metrics is home ownership. Home ownership among African Americans, all they only 13% of the population. It's only 20-some%. That means the other 80-some or 79% is renting. They would never build no generational wealth. Most of them work for the university. And still don't know how to make that transition because nobody has showed them that. Now, a more reasonable number, and I think you could look at this too, like a healthy community. It should be at least 40% among them home ownership. That would be healthy. This 20 range, that's not a good sign, man. And then job creation or job ownership or business ownership. Business ownership here among African Americans is less than I think it's like 1% or something. You would never get out of this, and you're gonna get exactly what you're seeing. Never. So that number needs to increase. We need to bring that number up to at least, if you go to a healthy community again, you'll probably see about 5 to 8% business ownership, 40% home ownership, But these are signs, and this is how you're gonna identify. This, like if we was a doctor, we would prognose this and say, hey, okay, this is sick, something going on here. This patient is in need, serious need. So how do we change this? And you can keep hearing people talking like, well, we're a big melting pot and all that. No, but you're taking money out of that. You're not. If that money not recirculating now, man, you're not a melting pot. And the university has to put money back into this. It has to bounce that money back into the community, not create all these damn. And it's encroaching further and further on the north side with these apartments. It's tearing down the houses on the north side. Look what it's doing. And then it's creating all these apartments. You could never own them apartments for the students. So it's creating more, it's evaporating the energy, back to that energy concept even faster. It's not building it. Then it's talking about what can it do. All right. Okay, yeah. Because they never was this far over. They across university now. They building apartments all over there. That was a lot of houses that's gone. That's gone. They just tear it down now. Then they put up one of these developments over here, like Bristol place is one of them. But you can't own them. It look good, but that's still renting. You still playing that same game, man. All they do is just give you some shiny doo-doo. You can't. It's no investment in that. There's nothing there. And then they even talking about, well, we're gonna give you a nice house for about. We'll charge you low. We only give you like $500-600. You still not building that up. There's nothing there. So, all I see is beating a dead horse. They playing like they making it look like they're doing something, but all they doing is perpetuating the problem. That's what I see. It's extracting more wealth out. It's increasing it. This bubble is increasing. So, and it's a great thing to have this university in your backyard. But if you can't utilize it, then all it's doing is pushing these people out. That's it. Take a look at this. Just think about this. Look at all them stores up and down the university. Now go on the north side and show me where that area is at. Where every other area down here got like a little downtown and all that. There's no other area like that. Yeah, it got the flow, it got the people, but there's people there too. If you create it, it's gonna come. It'll go there. Look at this area. This area could be thriving, but it's not. I mean, if you're gonna turn this around, it's gonna take a system to challenge the system. I think the university, they got economic disparity studies that they do. I think that's what needs to be done next. One, and understand each situation is different. And I think if they put together an economic disparity study and really implement a plan and not see this plan as stopping their plan, but instead learn how to make this plan work hand in hand. Because think about this. You say, what would it look like with a no gun violence? Think about this. What if we had 8% black businesses here, just 8%, just 10? That would offer so much diversity. Bring in not just black businesses, Hispanics, all that. You know, you could make this area booming, man. I've been in areas in Texas. I'm trying to think of the name of the area, like Grand Prairie area. And, it's another area in Texas where it's like mostly African American. It'll come to me, but, and it was beautiful, man. I mean, I said, wow. I said, man, they own all this, and you got big, beautiful houses down there, and in this area, man, and it was in Texas, and they had most of the stores. Nobody was clowning. None of this was going on. None of this. What you seeing right now, none of this was happening at all. It was beautiful. So if you want to make this work and really make this something, even for the students to come here and say, oh man, I could go eat some soul food over here. I could go dancing over there and do that. Now you also are increasing the value of the community. You know, even the students would love that. I know y'all would love that, to go here and try that. Y'all want to try the world, but it's limited here. If you can't get the business loans and things like that, you are limiting opportunity and growth even for the students. So you're not getting a full education. Because they got places, I'm telling you, man, I done been there, it's right outside of Dallas. I done been outside of Houston and seen some beautiful places, man, where mostly African American, they had it, they was doing it. This could be one of them places. But for some reason, the powers that be feel threatened by it. So the name of the game is, no, don't let them grow like that. Don't do that. Chicago can answer that question. They get cameras everywhere, man. Yeah, do it look like it stopped it? Nope. I mean, it's cameras everywhere in Chicago, man. We used to have them on the block over there, and then you'll see the little, they ain't stopping nothing.
They've also got this thing called shot spotters now.
Yeah, that crap.
Like the microphone thing where like it hears like a shot or something.
The only reason they pushing that so they can get their surveillance state up. But that crap, that ain't helping nothing, man. We could go on YouTube and see all day people getting shot with surveillance. Talking about the camera got it. The guy's still at large. Well, what the hell was the camera for? Yes. Right, he's still at large. We don't know where Mike is at. We think it's Mike. And then the people now, they got more sophisticated. They just cover up. You know, they cover up. So all that, see, okay, they keep thinking they're going to buy their way out of this or police their way out of this. You can't do that. You're not going to be able to control people like that, you know, unless you just throw a microchip up in and find them in the air. But other than that crap, they can put it up, but I forgot how much they spent on that budget. And they always use this, well, they caught the shooters out of Grand Tube and all that. Big deal, man. Only reason they did, man, okay. Good luck with that. That's all I say. I don't see that doing too much difference. Yeah, they used to have like what was called a community development fund here that actually started some businesses, and these people were still in business. Sean Williams was one of them individuals who went through this program. And a CDFI fund, a community development fund, would offer a grant for individuals who go through business training, get the business plan, all that, then help them set up and walk with these individuals for at least a year and a half to keep them stable. That would change the numbers around. That's not here anymore. So now, we're trying to reestablish that through Business Elevator, the economic part, the economic development part, and working with first followers. We're trying to bring that back. That would be a game changer. When when you see white flight out of these communities, when they pull up, just like Roseland, and I lived in Roseland for a while. I've been 111 in Princeton, 111. So it's the Museum of Science and Industry did a report on Roseland, and they talked about, they do neighborhood reports, right? And I like reading these because they make a lot of sense. They said that the middle class jobs will leave, or once they gone, service industry jobs gonna come in. It was a lot of Dutch out there in Roseland. They said white flight is gonna happen. These houses are gonna go for sale. The people down there at the lower end are gonna look at this as a way of escaping this area and see this as a bargain moving there. But really what was happening is a shrinkage of jobs, and middle class jobs are gonna be gone. In that study, they even said that they expect violence to increase exponentially. Yeah, man. So we walked into a trap when my family got there. Once we left from down out the end and we got there, and we thinking like, oh yeah, you out of that area. But everybody knew what was gonna happen. They already did the study on that, and the houses were not built for. The houses were already like 100 years old. So now you got wood frame houses that's gonna be dilapidated. No economic opportunity to build these houses up or keep them together. Because you would gonna take money now to take a wood frame house and build this house and keep it up. That was gone. So what else you gonna get? Poverty at a level where you're gonna have just violence just increasing. They said it right there in the report. They already knew what was gonna happen. And they was talking about, they use a lot of studies to look at when they're gonna build these jails. Because they already know. Like I said, somebody's getting rich off this. They looking at these kids' scores. Okay, we need more jails. They know already 80% of them's gonna live, let's say 40, 20, 50% of is African American. We need X amount of jails then for this. They know this many probably die, probably that 10 or 20%. They're gonna die early, this other one. They know all that. The sociologists got the numbers down pat. Trust me.